Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's live discussion of The Expanse, Season 3, Episode 5, Triple Point. We're here to talk about The Expanse, and I'm joined here by Akton Tamko. Akton, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion.
It's great to be here. I'm really excited to talk about this episode. It's like Expanse episode 5s have become episode 9 of Game of Thrones. Well, except this is really just part 1 of 2, but still, it was a really exciting episode, and I'm excited to talk about it.
That is a good point. And also joining us once again, Darrin's reviews. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Mark, for having me. Akton, very excited to chat with you also this week. Yeah, you're right. Episodes 5, a lot of fun, a lot of stuff happening, and yet still I feel like we're getting right up to where some of the really good stuff's gonna be.
Cool. And joining us for the first time, Willi from Down Device and Fire. I understand, well, from my sort of nudging, you just binge watched The Expanse, so you just caught up. So, so what are your thoughts on just going through the show and then seeing this newest episode?
Wow. Wasn't quite expecting that to happen. Yeah, we have a lot of things to talk about. Oh boy.
Great. Cool. So actually, before we jump into this episode, it's a great episode. So I don't want to sell it short, but there is this huge news that I think everyone in this chat is talking about at the moment. And I did my review, like it was a half-an-hour review on the last episode, and I got like 12 comments, and all the comments were not about the episode. They're all about the news. And of course, the huge news is that Sci-Fi Channel has canceled The Expanse. So they canceled The Expanse. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there won't be a season 4, because I believe Elkin, the company that funds it, think this is a high IP, very valuable. It's very critically acclaimed, has a huge fan base, so they're talking about shopping around and trying to sell it to another network. And when you look into it more, you find like the reason why Sci-Fi Channel canceled had more to do with like the business arrangements that they had. Like they weren't getting money from all the certain revenues. They were only getting money from like the first airing, which wasn't as high as the previous seasons. And I actually kind of saw this coming because they canceled Dark Matter a couple months ago after its 3rd season. And Dark Matter, when I looked at the ratings for the Sci-Fi Channel, Dark Matter actually had higher ratings than The Expanse, which really had me worried. So apparently it's just the Sci-Fi Channel doesn't want to do it anymore. And so they said they're going to shop around for another network. A lot of people are talking Netflix. Seeing the critically acclaimed the show has, it's hard to imagine that no other network would pick it up. And like I saw one article that was headlined, Sci-Fi Channel cancels show that has 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Like the show has 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and they're canceling it. This is ridiculous and unheard of. But anyway, quick thoughts on this.
Well, this just proves to me once again that Sci-Fi Channel sucks. Like I've never really, or Sci-Fi, I guess they call it now. I mean, I just never really had a lot of respect for this channel, honestly. I mean, it says, oh, well, it's not getting as high a ratings as our big shows, The Magicians and Krypton. I mean, give me a break. I think this might actually in the long run be better for The Expanse. I think they could, end up somewhere where they get even more viewership. So I'm cool with Netflix. I think Hulu could be a possibility, or any of those streaming services. I had this thought. I mean, this is a random thing I came up with. What if CBS All Access wants to just do all sci-fi and wants to show Expanse when Discovery is not running, and like have a little sci-fi section of their channel? I think there's a lot of possibilities. I can't imagine that nobody is going to pick up this show. So I am not freaking out. I'm not worried that there's not going to be a season 4. And I actually am so optimistic that I think this might be better for the show in the long run to not have to deal with sci-fi anymore. But we'll see what happens.
If CBS All Access picked up Sci-Fi, I would drop down my money right now. At the moment, I'm waiting till chunks of the season of Star Trek get through before I catch up there. But no, if they made a choice like that, I would totally go for that. I was also, Dark Matter was one of my just quiet, just little joys in summer. It wasn't a huge show, wasn't a great show. It was fun though. I really enjoyed it more than Killjoys, which they did end up renewing. So that really bummed me out. So when I heard about Expanse, I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, no, what is it with third season Sci-Fi? What is wrong with you? Got it, because I think BSG even back in there only went to third season, but that seemed more like their choice of when they wanted to end it.
They went to four season.
They did get to 4. Yeah, I remember there was that huge break in there, and it always kind of threw me off. But yeah, it was really disappointing to hear. But yeah, I think I gotta agree with Acton. I'm pretty sure this is going to get picked up somewhere. Netflix, I think, aren't they, with international distribution?
Yes.
So I mean, they kind of already have sort of a stake in the show. So I think that does make it pretty likely with them. But it's just, to me, it's just a sign that Sci-Fi is going for, trope story work and not really wanting to invest in the quality, sci-fi.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna boycott not watch any of the shows. It's a record with them. They canceled one of my favorite shows of all time, Stargate Universe. They canceled that before. It was like a long-term arc, and they canceled it, so I'll never know how that ends. After only 2 seasons, they canceled Caprica, and they did to do all this reality show bullshit, and they did this bullshit for a while. But then, like a couple years ago, when they premiered The Expanse, you're like, no, we're going back to that kind of quality science fiction we used to do with Battlestar Galactica. But now 3 years later, we're like, nah, fuck that. We'll go back and cancel all the good shows and keep the crap on. So fuck that channel. So I do hope that it does become a good thing for the show, because if Netflix picked it up, like, they're amazing at promoting the show. Sci-Fi Channel sucked at promoting this show. This is something like Josh was saying. He met the actor who plays Fred Johnson. He was saying he couldn't believe how terrible the show was being promoted, that it wasn't being promoted very well. So if it does go to something like a Netflix, even a Hulu or Amazon that wants to compete with Netflix, I'm sure they'd be way better at promoting the show.
Also, I mean, listen, there's another service that we are currently broadcasting on right now, and that is YouTube Red. I mean, look, you guys may or may not agree with the whole YouTube Red concept, but a project that they just put out recently is doing gangbusters, and that is the Cobra Kai series. So, if YouTube wanted to jump in the game, this is the perfect opportunity for them to do it. And, I think on the backs of, of the success of Cobra Kai, you bring over something like The Expanse, it could actually make YouTube a legitimate player in this kind of game.
Absolutely. So I do agree. I do find it really hard to believe that no network is going to pick it up, and this is just going to be the last season. But I think it's possible, because this happened before with other shows. Like, oh, there's no way the show isn't going to be picked up, and it didn't, and it died. So the possibility is always there. So that's why I'm going to be sort of worried. I'm going to be on edge until we get some announced. But I am hopefully optimistic that this actually turns out to be good.
Real quick, Mark, what's the crazy thing? What is that damn Z Nation? Z Nation is about to have like season 5, and apparently there's even a strike because the actors want more money. And I'm like, are you telling me that more people are watching Z Nation than The Expanse? I mean, don't get me wrong.
Sadly,
Z Nation is fun, silly kind of show, but look, even in me binge watching over the past couple of weeks to catch up on all this stuff, I'm like, man, come on, you can't pull a rug out from under me that quickly, Sci-Fi. I mean, or somebody's got to keep this going. All right. So, write to your congressman, write to, your local alderman or whoever, write to somebody. We need to get the Expanse back on air as quickly as possible. Don't let it die because of bullshit sci-fi.
Yeah, it's because Sci-Fi Channel sucked at promoting the shows. I mean, they had this 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics love it, fan base, and yet they can't freaking get people to watch it. So, I don't know.
Well, and you're supposed to have, you're trying to have your signature shows. You're trying to have the real quality stuff. Yeah, you've got your crap, you got your reality, you got your lower grade other stuff. But this is supposed to be their primo show, and they're not supporting it. I mean, that makes no sense at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see the
Cool.
the Jet City Girl one in the chat is saying sci-fi is doomed. Doomed.
It's a good Simpsons reference.
Yeah. So I agree. I mean, if this is what they're doing, I can't imagine that they're long for this world. I think sci-fi could be gone within the next several years. So, I mean, this just doesn't seem like good business practice to me. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and I do think it might be better off in better hands because there's so many people like Don. I had to nudge you to watch the show. So many people that don't even know about the show, never heard of it. So maybe I just imagine if it was on Netflix, like everyone would be talking about, oh, look, this is cool, great high quality show on Netflix. But anyway, let's actually get on. Let's move on and talk about the episode because this was a really great episode. As I said, I don't want to sell it short. Now, apparently, at the moment, this may be just a bit overhyped because it just came out, but at the moment on IMDb, this is now the highest rated episode. It just barely beat out the season 2, episode 5, which you're talking about the episode 5 being the big ones. Home, which was, of course, the one where the Eros almost crashed onto Earth. I still would put that episode above this one. I wouldn't say this is the best of the show, but it is one of the best. And I can definitely see why it's getting all the high praise that it is. Now, just before we get into it, just really quick thoughts on this episode. Apkin, if you want to go first.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think it's quite as good as last year's episode 5, mostly because last year's episode 5 was singular unit. It had an ending, and this is a cliffhanger, and we don't have a complete story yet. We're gonna finish it off next week. So that would be my main reason why I would say last year's was better. But oh man, I love me a good Starship Mutiny story. I absolutely love that. A lot of good stuff, and then the stuff with the Rosinante finally getting to where they were going all season to Io, and finally getting and then for that ending where they're sending off all the proto-molecules, like a great cliffhanger. So absolutely loved this episode.
Yeah, I thought this was a lot of fun. I mean, and again, it feels like part 1 of a 2-parter because of where they left things, and there was so much anticipation with the Rossi heading into Io and getting all set up, and I felt that was sort of dragged out a little bit more so they could focus more on what was going on, with the UN ships, with Souther and Wynn, and with the Mars ships as well. So. Again, there seemed to be a lot of setup. Almost they wanted to focus more on those areas and then really slam us into what's going to happen on Io next, which is, yeah, if they wanted to leave us tense and ready to go, I think they did their job quite well.
Listen, I'm glad that the cliffhanger was in episode 5 and not episode 10 or 13. Whatever the last episode of the season is supposed to be, because imagine if this would have been the cliffhanger for the season finale, and then we learned a couple of days ago that the series was canceled. So I'm glad for the setup. I mean, the mutiny aspect, and then also the political intrigue, because you had the Martians who were kind of like, well, we don't know what to make of this, but the UN flagship is at a place where it really shouldn't be. So let's just go check this out. So it was I think the way that they started to bring the pieces together was absolutely brilliant, and I can't wait to see what the payoff is going to be.
Cool. Great. So let's jump into the episode. Now, normally I always try to start with the biggest storyline. Usually that's Rocinante, but I don't think that's the case for this episode. I think the big storyline is the storyline on the Agatha King with the mutiny. Now, I think this is actually really well played up to in this episode, because we don't actually get the mutiny itself until like the later half of the episode. Most of the episode is more character building, and I love this. Like these characters, like we just met, like I'm trying to remember her name, Schaefer and Moscato or something, the lieutenants who are like lieutenants for Souther. Like we just met them a couple episodes again, and I like we get more build up with them, and I love their interaction with Admiral Wynn's right hand man, Boyer, I think his name was, and how they're sitting eating the table, and he's like, they're saying, "Oh, your boss is a dick," and he's saying, "Well, actually, he's this war hero. He suffered through this thing," and it really helps explain these characters and their motivations, but you still want rooting for these assholes to get killed at the end of the episode, and I love that. I think that's really dynamic character storytelling, and I also love how and I talked about this. I think we mentioned Ned Stark a bit earlier in past weeks, but Admiral Sellers he was a bit like Ned Stark here. He was a bit stupid about going about finding it when he had that message from Aaron Wright, proving that Wynn and Aaron Wright are in it together. He had to go get confirmation from Kochar, which of course just all that did was tipped off Wynn that he's on to him, instead of like working behind the shadows, which is something like someone who was smarter like Eva Sorella would do. So I think Souther kind of got killed because he was just a bit too dumb about it, a bit too honorable, which we'd seen in the past. But anyway, I'll turn it over to you guys. What are some of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, go ahead, Acton.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that we had talked about a couple weeks earlier with these lieutenant guys that you could see that there was trust between them and Souther, that they were building up for that, and we talked about how Wynn might be in charge, but he does not have the trust of this crew, and we see that come to fruition here in this episode. That not only did these guys trust Souther, but apparently all these people from other ships were also more behind Souther than Wynn. And you're absolutely right, Mark. Souther was the cause of his own downfall. We've also talked about before about how Aversorella was right, absolutely correct last season when she told him, that was dumb of you to resign. Like, you could do the most good if you stayed in that position. And if he had stayed in his previous position, he would have been in Wynn's position. He would have been the one calling the shots, and he would have been able to do the most good. So that was his first mistake. And then absolutely like, oh, I've got to have absolute proof. I got to go waste time and talk to Cody here. No, you got to act right now. So yeah, he kind of, Ned Stark is a really good comparison because he's a very noble and honorable guy, but maybe not the smartest guy when it comes to politics and how to play the game. Well, the Game of Thrones, as it's called in another show, but how to play the game. Like, he's not very good at that, and it caused his downfall. And it was very kind of tragic, but not too overly surprising.
Well, it was a failure to commit. I mean, really, like I said, it was holding on. He wanted to get confirmation from Kochar. I mean, I kind of understand that, but even the final lines to his people, is it Mancuso and Schaefer? Thanks, Evan, for listing those up. Now I got a quick visual reference. He just said, "Get ready for anything." That's not good instruction, especially when you're planning a mutiny on something on board the ship. It just seemed like he wasn't prepared. He should have had more guys up. It was the one thing that kind of I liked a lot of the intrigue in the episode, and I definitely liked the kind of back and forth. I love the supporting characters, and you're right. That scene in the dining room between the lieutenants and stuff, talking about, you know, where Win came from and what his history is and everything like that. That was all great character stuff. But at the end, it was that failure to commit, to be ready for anything. And as a crew, to lose their own ship like that, that really bummed me out. I have to say, I did really like, and I know it's sad, that one of the final scenes where the girl is trying to crawl away, and I'm like, oh, she's gonna get somewhere, and Win from the top of the bridge just shoots her, bam, bam, and just to finish off, it was such a finality to that statement of how much Win, even wounded, was just, he and his men are prepared to make those choices and go all the way. And it seemed that was the problem with the Agatha King's crew, is they were hemming and hawing. But I also loved, on the flip side of that, the Martian crew, who had their captain who was really watched everything, and I guess we're going to get into that. So
yeah, we'll get into that later.
I get ahead of things. Well,
but I just wanted to mention in the chat real quick that Belinda says, such a great job with the guest cast. We hardly knew him, but it was a gut punch when Win went all Punisher. I think that's absolutely true. Like the cast did an amazing job, and also All Your Money says Reservoir Dogs in space. So that's basically, I did get kind of a Tarantino-esque feel to that, just the way that just people just started shooting each other like crazy.
Listen, it's damn it, Souther, why did you have to be such an idiot? Listen, I've said many bad things about Ned Stark, and I guess I'm gonna have to say many bad things about Souther as well. You definitely tipped your hand. And the thing about it is, it's like you saw that when was definitely like, all right, I need to get this guy out of here. And he told him, yeah, if you don't have any actual business on the bridge of your own damn ship, you don't need to be here. I'm like, what kind of shit is that when I'm the admiral? This is my damn ship, and you telling me unless I have business on my own damn bridge that I don't need to be here? And instead of him saying, okay, you know what? No, this motherfucker has lost his mind. He's about to get us all killed. He's like, he won't tell us what the hell we're going to IO for. No, you know what? Take him out of here. But no, he's like, oh, we need to make sure we have to, the military code of justice. Man, no. He was supposed to roll up in there, smack him in the back of the head with one of those 9mm. Like, yo, you know what? This is my damn ship. Take him to the brig. And, we're going to find out what the hell is going on here. But whatevs. Well, all I got to say is, what an idiot, Souther. What an idiot you are. And now you're dead.
Yeah, it's funny in the chat, All Your Money says, hey, it's his first mutiny. but yeah, I also got the impression that, and I kind of said this in my review, that his lieutenants actually were better at this, and they're the ones who organized the other people and the other ships at Souther's other supporters. So basically, the way reason they were able to stand up in the first place was their doing. So I think they knew what they were doing. It was just Souther came in and was like and fucked it all up and be like, oh no, let me just go right to Win and let him know that I'm planning this. And he was dumb because he actually thought he could. He said his first name, I think it was Gus or something. I was like, Gus, come on, you don't need to do this. And I was like, come on, you think you're actually going to be able to reason with him?
Yeah, it was totally the lieutenants, and in fact, they were the ones who had to convince Souther to even do this. Like, they had this idea already, like, we need to mutiny, and they were like, sir, if you want to make a move, you can. It's like, what do you mean make a move? Like they actually had to like convince him of it. But they were way ahead of the game. I mean, yeah, if they could have somehow just gotten around him and carried out the mutiny without him, they could have. It would have been better, but that wasn't possible either.
Yeah, Aliamari says the lieutenants are better at mutiny because they're very untrustworthy people. I'm not sure if I'd say that. I'd say they're a bit more, I guess, maybe less honorable and more devious, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I'd say the same thing about Ava Sorella. Like, she knew how to play people. She would put on this facade, oh yeah, I'm all for war, but in the background she'd be working to undermine Ehrenreich, which is what you need to do in situations like this.
Well, yeah, as lieutenants, we're more along the lines of they're observing. I mean, they can get more data. One came up and said, look, he's been on, Type Beam with IO since we've been here. I mean, they're observant. They're not necessarily trustworthy. That Souther's part is he is believing within the system. Yeah, that too much of that military man in him. Win as the commander, got to be sure, got to do this step by step, do this right. Whereas lieutenants, their jobs are really to keep their their eyes out and their ears to the ground, listening for what's going on to properly inform the commander. So I think it's just they're doing their job, is looking out for everything in the ship. And Souther was too caught up in his belief in the chain of command, and that was going to be, I think, his salvation. Yeah,
absolutely. And I just want, and Belinda in the chat also points out that scene where when orders that they destroy another Union ship, that the tactical officer, whoever, refused to fire, and he just goes by and just yanks amazing scene.
Yeah, that was crazy when he actually just came, yanked her out the seat, and was like, all right, I'm giving you one last chance, turn that ship around. But the thing about it is, he actually looked sad to fire on that ship. Like he did it, and he kind of put his head down, like, damn, like, that was wrong. But then, hey, still right back up and like, hey, all right, let's get it popping. And it was just this was such a sad turn of events that didn't need to happen. But yet it did, and because like Darrin was saying, people were afraid to commit. A lot of body bags. Yeah,
and in the chat, Belinda says he was not sad. What? And I kind of agree. I don't think he was.
I mean, well, maybe not sad, but ashamed.
I know they listen to me. They should listen to me, those idiots. So that's kind of what I got.
Well, look, he because after he fired, he kind of did put his head down. Like there was some form of contrition there. It wasn't just like.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. He didn't take delight in killing the other people, but the thing with him is, like, we're talking about how stupid Souther is, but I think Wynn's even dumber, because he just comes from the perspective, oh, everyone's gonna listen to me. I'm command, so you just do what I say, and that's it. And if you don't listen to me, I'll kill you. And that is the great way to start exactly what he started, a civil war, basically. I mean, that's exactly how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm still wondering what was his purpose. I mean, because look, Mao, and I guess we'll get to the whole Mao angle in a few, but he has his purpose for the proto molecule, and it's not necessarily war. I mean, obviously he wants to profit from it in some way, but what is Wynn's purpose? Like, why does he want to start a war? What does he gain from it? Because, you don't just go and say, okay, hey, I'm warmongering for the sake of, because I just want to fight. I mean, not if you're an admiral. I can see if you're a grunt or something like that, but not as an admiral, you should know a lot better. So, I don't know. We have to see how this all unfolds.
he wants dominance over Mars, and I think they kind of explained that in this backstory, that he has this vengeance. This, whenever he sees the Martian flag, he goes into fits of rage. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
I mean, but it seemed as though no matter what, I mean, because yes, it's one thing to say, okay, Martian ships are blocking my way, and I need to get to this place. It's another thing when he's like he's kind of actively drawing them there to be destroyed, and it's like, okay, well, you get dominance over Mars, and then what? Like, is that really the end all be all? I just want to,
He's just not smart enough to think beyond that. I think him and Aaron Wright, they're both like just. They want dominance, and that's it. That's all their thoughts are. And their own personal ambitions as well, particularly with Aaron Wright.
Yeah, it's a power quest. I mean, and that's usually is with people in this position. I think just he and Aaron Wright, view things as similar. Yes, Earth is superior, Mars is inferior, and you get this taken care of, and you have your race. You are done. You are willing to get to whatever that end goal is by whatever means necessary when you see that goal is more important than anything else. I think that's just the type of individual that Wynn is. His obsession has caused him to lose any sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah, all your money in the chat says that Wynn and Aaron Wright are just the paranoid hawks who fear Mars and their potential to dominate the system. Yeah, I think that's it's that simple. Dominance over Mars equals Pax Earth, or something that sounds better. Yeah. So. Yeah,
but I would say Aaron Wright is a lot smarter than Wynn is.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I think Aaron Wright's going to last a lot longer. I know we end the episode where it looks like Wynn is about to fire. And it looks like, he's got the upper hand, but I do not think he's going to live past next episode. Like, I just don't think, I don't think he's smart enough. I think he's done everything wrong. He is lucky to have gotten as far as he has. I just don't see him lasting very long. He's just letting his obsession, as you've talked about with Mars and dominating Mars, to just overtake him. And I don't think he's going to get very far.
Well, who's left to kill him? I mean, he just fired. He fired all of those basically proto-molecule nukes at all of the Martian ships that he could. Unless it's going to be Holton and the crew somehow getting aboard the flagship to kill him or something like that. I mean, like, who is there left to actually stop him where he is right now?
Well, a good number of the crew, did step forward, and had to get escorted by security. I mean, what we're looking at is the rest of the ship. You have Wynn, he has a couple of his guys there, but the whole rest of the ship is all really Souther's people. How many of them are just going to stick with the Admiral, and how many are going to see what happened and decide to make some choices? So, in a way, Wynn's in a tough position. He's locked himself in the bridge because I think he understands that anybody else outside of there could turn on him in a heartbeat, and he may be getting Mutiny Part 2.
Yeah, Evan in the chat is bringing up the promo for the next episode, which kind of gives away some of what happens. But yeah,
I mean, that's kind of what I was talking about, really. But wait, just a point of clarification: did Wynn fire the proto-molecules? I thought that came from the surface.
Oh no, he they showed earlier in the episode where whatchamacallit, Jules Paramal gave him the codes, and he's like, transfer all the codes, and they even showed like the computer screen transfer. And so that's when, like, it was such a great moment, because when Mars declared for, like, oh, any ship that wants to be peace, we won't fire upon you and we'll help you. So Wynn knew that he was outnumbered. So, and the other ensign was like, oh, how do you want to respond to this? So he just went and sat down with the protomolecule and just freaking launched them all. And he had this evil grin on his face.
Yeah, that looks like it's probably maybe
his mustache twirling villain moment there.
But yeah, based on the promo, it looks like that could maybe bite him in the ass. Like, it might.
You know what?
I said he's not going to make it, but he's just not very smart.
I actually did not No, I watched the promo, but I kind of blocked it out of my mind because I wanted to kind of focus on this. But like, yeah, uh, first off, he froze Jules Pierre Mao's assets. So isn't this like the second time that this guy's assets have been frozen by the UN? It's like, all right, dude, seriously, you need to find some way to get your money out of UN hands, because anytime that they want the proto molecule or anything from you, they're just gonna be like, okay, fine, we're just gonna freeze your assets until you do what we want. And this time now it's led to all out war. So
Well,
I mean,
and
yes, he
then-
deserved to die, and I hope he burns in hell. But damn it, man!
But I mean, firing the protomolecules, I meto that's just not going to work for you, because the proto. I think if there's one lesson the show keep going over and over again, is that the like there's no good that can come out of using the protomolecule. It's just never going to work out for you. It's like the ring and Lord of the Rings. Like you can't possibly use it for good. Like you can think you're going to use it for good, but it's impossible. Like it's just never going to work out for you. Like it will always bite you in the ass. You cannot use the protomolecule for your own purposes. And all of these people now, all three factions, think that they can, and it's never going to work for them.
You cannot wield it. No one can.
And I actually think that when launched the hybrids, he wasn't necessarily thinking, oh, this is a strategic move. This is how I'm going to win. Oh, I'm going to defeat them this way. No, it was just a big fuck you, because he knew he was defeated. He was outnumbered. He's like, well, fuck you all. We'll all die then. Fuck you. And I'll launch all the hybrids. I was like, well, it was such an evil moment.
Well, that was actually something I was kind of curious, and maybe you guys caught something that I missed. I wasn't sure what he actually launched them at. I mean, I know they went in multiple directions, but was he trying to launch them at the ships? Was he trying to send them back to Earth? Were they sending them to a research space? I mean, are those weapons? Are they transportation?
Those look like missiles, and it seemed like he was launching them at the Martian fleet.
I will say I don't think the episode itself specified where he was launching. I think that's something that will be covered in the next episode.
Okay, yeah. I was just, I mean, it could have been at the ship, but I just got him. He was like, well, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to send these things to where they need to go. Which, I mean, it's all bad. It's all bad. It's just what level of bad.
And
go
ahead, Doug.
I was just going to say, I mean, I got the impression that he was sending him at the Martian fleet, because remember, right before that, they got the message, across all channels, like, hey, if you guys need help, as long as we know that you're not trying to fire at us, we'll give you whatever assistance you need. And then, his new number one, since his original got his neck snapped, was like, hey, well, how do we respond? And he just goes and opens up like, all right, fire. So,
yeah, I mean that's not. That's definitely a possibility, but I think it's more like what I said about how that was just a big fuck you. He's just sending them off to wreak havoc. And I did want to say, without giving away any spoilers, as a book reader, this episode really elevates the source material. It was like so much better, because without spoilers, I'll tell you what happens in the novels. Souther is never on Agatha King. The Agatha King is Wynn's ship, and he has a ship, and Souther is on his own ship, and he has his own fleet. And Alva Sorella says, hey, Souther, can you help us? He's like, okay. So he comes with his fleet, and then Wynn has his own fleet, and that's it. We don't get any of this mutiny. We don't meet the lieutenants or any of the storyline. And I just think it was like such an improvement. I did think this really elevates from the source material a lot.
Well, it gave us a great amount of, I think, personal connection with everything. From what you're saying, it's another one of those giant, big, distancy, one guy with a ship, but then you got other guy with a ship, but they're going to command, and missiles are going to fly. This makes it a lot more personal. I mean, I got to say, when Souther got shot, I mean, that was a beautiful, shocking moment as everything turned. You could see the look on his face, and as the audience were the same way, like, oh my God. you actually shot him. He's actually dead. He's actually going down, and that really, I think, kicked the stakes up really high. I mean, in the same way when Wynn fired off on the other UNSC ship, come around or you're not. And then we have the battle fallout where now the Agatha King's getting fired on him. I mean, it kept it personal and made all those larger stakes, I think, so much more engaging that way.
Absolutely. Cool. So let's move on. Let's talk about the Martians, because we get a few scenes from Mars' perspective where we see that young ensign or whoever come and take the message that Avasarala sent him with, and his commanding officer's reaction to it, I think, was pretty much what I'd expect, that she'd be a bit, hesitant to trust it. But we do find out that she actually is a really good captain and also an honorable person. And I also think a very good strategic wise, and that she was able to eventually see the correct way of happening, which was actually a thing of luck, because she even talks about luck, like the 3 things in war, and she mentions of luck. It's lucky that we had a captain like her in charge of the Martian fleet, and not someone like Wynn, who's just like, fuck you, war, which could have easily happened. But she was smart enough, even over the complaints of her XO, who's a Cylon. It's a Cylon, watch out. But anyway, the actor who played her XO, was a Cylon Battlestar Galactica. Anyway, I actually think he was great in that role, to have that dissenting voice, but not too far. Like, if he tried to mutiny against her, I'd be like, that would be too much. You can't have 2 mutinies happen at the same time. But I did like that sort of contrast, that he was saying the typical, Martian line of thinking, but she was above that. And I think that she added a lot to this episode as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, I mean, they were... Avasarala and sending that message with that Martian dude was pretty lucky that it landed in the captain like that, because I was wondering, in last week's episode, like, well, what kind of captain is going to get a hold of that message? Because it could really go either way. You could get a captain who is just going to be like, fuck this, like, the Earth is evil, UN is evil, this is bullshit, we're going to blow them all up. Or you could get a captain like we got. And so I'm glad that they went in that direction. And she was really a great character, really added a lot to the story. So I'm glad that this is the direction they went.
Well, I think they were able to get both of those feelings with her and the XO. I think, in a way, acting there, they were able to share those exact 2 same possible responses. Do you have the person that's maybe looking at it as a possibility, or someone that's obviously thinking that this has to be a trap, it's totally fake, how can we trust anything? So I really think the dynamic between the 2 of them really showed those kind of larger possibilities, the larger discussions of the different ways of looking at it, different approaches towards it. And I think they did a real good way of measuring out her response. Not like, oh, I see this, here's an opportunity, oh, let's see what's going on. That there was a process. She was trying little bits and seeing how everybody responded, then pushed a little more and saw what the response was off of that. So I think, she was a wise captain without being reactionary. And that's kind of exactly what we need in a war like this.
Yeah, I mean, what would you expect? Look, like they both said, they're in the middle of a war. Here comes an ensign who was on a ship that last they heard got crippled, and they thought everyone was dead. And they're like, okay, well, how were you able to get your ship and back up? And like, well, this guy who's kind of an intergalactic criminal helped me out. And also there was a traitor, and also there was someone from the UN who no one likes. It's just like, oh, come on now, Rip. And you just so happen to bring this supposedly very important message. It's like, all right, look, listen here, kid. All right, hand me the data pad, and you know what, you go back to helping out people make repairs right now. we'll call you back up from the minor leagues if we need you again, if we think this is actually serious. So when the debate comes between her and the XO, they both had valid points. But the fact that she was level-headed is the only thing that kept things from spilling over into both sides having this crazy engagement. And like she said, when she saw the UN fleet firing on each other, she was like, hey, you know what? We got to let them do what they're doing right now, because if we start firing on them and we have less ships, there's a possibility they turn around, they band together, and decide that they're going to cripple us. So let them do what they're doing. And, if we have to mop up later, we'll do that. But unfortunately, she had absolutely no idea that, crazy Admiral Wynn happened to have some protomolecule missiles waiting for on IO. So we'll see how that turns out next episode, won't we?
Yeah, and the thing is like, I think she was definitely influenced by the recording of Aaron Wright that she saw, and the fact that she knows there's a conspiracy and that there's people on the UNN side who actively do not want this war. They recognize that this war is illegal and shouldn't have it, so she rightfully sides with them. I mean, that's essentially what she says. Oh, any ship that declares their peaceful intention, we won't fire upon you. In fact, we'll provide you with assistance if you need it. So they're basically siding with them, which I think that was really great. And that's how sort of Wynn knew that he was fucked, that he was outnumbered.
And that's pretty huge for Mars, because we haven't really seen that a lot from the Martian side. I mean, eventually Bobby Draper comes around to that, but I mean, we've seen a lot of just Martians who are just really, really strongly anti-Earth and let's wipe them all out and all of that sort of thing. So it was very cool to see, like, that there is, some on the Martian side who are also, just as there's, people on the UN side who are, gung-ho for war and gung-ho for getting the protomolecule and all that stuff. And there's people who are more reasonable and understand that the war is illegal. There's both sides of the Martian side of things too, and we haven't really seen that as much on the Martian side of things, so it was good to see that.
I was also really pleased to have the kid mutineer who brought the recording over, kind of back in the Rosnada, and also being honest, like, well, we did try to steal the ship, but they didn't kill us, and they actually helped us out and repaired everything. And they're talking about Avasarala was like, oh, well, she was tough, a little scary, but I started to like her. You could see how his experience actually did sort of affect him, and I like that it wasn't just a complaint or it wasn't just passed by, that there was actual sort of an effect on him, and he was kind of surprised when they weren't taking him at his word afterwards. So I enjoyed that. It was a nice little story bit right there. I thought worked well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Real quick, I just wanted to say, this whole juxtaposition when it comes to the Martian fleet versus the UN fleet, it kind of shows that the Martians were really more coalesced and really had better heads on their shoulders than the UN fleet did. Because the UN fleet, pretty much in disarray, and it's kind of like, well, you guys are claiming to be the leaders of all humanity, but yet you guys are doing the shit to fuck it up the most right now. And it was just kind of kind of a thing where, even though Mars seemed to be the more militaristic, they're like, what I've gotten over the course of watching this series is that Martians and Belters kind of have this real, like, we have to be tough because we're the ones who don't have all of the massive resources, and they're the ones who are kind of fighting to be seen as equal with Earth. And Earth has kind of been resting on its laurels, unless there's a chance for them to kind of be like, all right, yeah, we're just gonna come out here and put the boot to your neck if we get the opportunity. So to see this particular engagement where the Earth forces are kind of falling apart, and it's really hinging on one man's quest for dominance versus the Martians, who are like, look, we're not actually out here trying to fight right now, but you guys aren't really giving us much of a choice. I thought that was a very interesting dichotomy that they actually put together, and it really played out brilliantly with this particular episode. But now we have to see what is going to be the fallout of Wynn's actions for everybody now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's actually get to the Rocinante storyline, because I actually thought this storyline was pretty good as well. This was mainly setting things up, but we got to sort of a lot of character beats with like each of the different characters. We saw that Avasarala actually does want to sample the protomolecule. Now, this is something you and I talked about. We thought that she didn't, but it turns out that she does. But I do actually buy why. Like, the reason she gives is not so Earth can have a weapon and we can be in this power play, but it was more like, nah, this is something we need to have so we can study it and learn to defend about it, because all of humanity is at risk. And she even says to Holden, like, I used to say Earth comes first, but now it's not about that. It's about the survival of our species, and we can't, think of these tiny factions anymore. This is something that we need for our whole human race to survive. So I was happy about that. I don't know what you thought of it, Afkin.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was okay with this, and honestly, what was uncomfortable to me was when Holden kept saying, "Well, Naomi was right. Naomi was right." No, she wasn't, because Naomi thought that Avasarala wanted it for Earth, for selfish reasons, just like she did, and she absolutely does not. I absolutely do buy what she says, that she wants it for more noble reasons, though. I don't agree with that. I still think the protomolecule, nothing good can come out of the protomolecule, and I still think the best action is to destroy it. But I do believe that her motivation is noble, that she does want a piece of it for the greater good, to study it, to improve, for the betterment of all humanity. I do buy that. I don't believe at all that she's doing it for selfish reasons or so that Earth can have a piece of it or anything like that, because that would be more Aaron-right. So, I mean, I still think she's in the wrong. I still think they're better off nuking all the protomolecule that they can, but, I don't blame her for her reasoning there. And I don't have any problem with this at all.
Yeah, I just have to point out in the chat, All Your Money says that she wants it for medicinal purposes. Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. But anyway, Darrin, your thoughts on Avasarala?
That's what they all say, for medicinal purposes. I'm right with you guys. I thought that was kind of an interesting revelation when she just says, yeah, she was right. And you're like, haha, no, we did see it. But no, she wants it for defensive purposes, which is kind of what you need. In this point, she's seeing it as a potential enemy. We must be able to study it. We must know what we're up against, and we're the only ones. And since everybody else has it, you kind of have to have it just from like I said, a defensive standpoint. You don't know how anybody else is going to use it. And if it falls apart, you need to have the knowledge, at least, to know what it is that you're going to deal with. So, it just, to me, it shines more on Avasarala's point, where while she might have, as she has said herself, done terrible things for defense of Earth and what she believed in, right now she sees the bigger picture, and that it's very much where she's coming from. So I like having that little shared moment again. It sort of brightens up everyone's motivations, and I think that's what they did a lot with the Rossi crew this week, is really cutting through a lot of what people are going for and what their basis is. So, and then a lot of that great character set up on everyone's level. so they know what it is, why they are doing their fight, and what, why the people around them are with them.
I mean, it was one of those things where I wasn't sure what to make of Arisarella for a while. And, in the past few episodes, especially for this season, it's finally kind of come into focus that, she is not the bad guy at all. She's not trying to be in league with the bad guys, and she wants the bad guys out of here just as much as anyone should. But that doesn't mean that she's not willing to get a little dirty to get the bad guys gone. And this is just one of those things where Holton, or is it Holton or Holden? I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right, but the point is,
Holden.
Okay. With the way that things have been going for him and his crew, it's like, how could he not be super skeptical of her intentions? Because with her, now saying, hey, I want, a sample of the proto-molecule, he's seen the destruction that it has caused. Not only the proto-molecule itself, but the people who have been fighting to get a sample of the proto-molecule. They're on their way to IO because, someone who has recently joined their crew was like, hey, I think someone experimented on my daughter and turned her into a proto-molecule monster. He knows the person who's been funding all this research let his own daughter die in order to fund, to further this research. He's like, anybody who wants it can't possibly be good. So it's one of those things where because he doesn't know her that well, it would be very hard to gauge, her sincerity. But we as the audience have been able to see, like, oh yeah, she really isn't about the absolute tomfoolery that the rest of these people have been on, but she also probably doesn't understand the gravity of the situation that they're all in right now, and she's asking one of the most difficult requests, because she's asking for something that, yes, if they could find out how to harness this, could save humanity. But at the end of the day, right now, all he knows about it is that anytime human beings get in contact with this substance, it winds up making things a hell of a lot worse than it was before.
Yeah, and that's why he was so against Naomi giving it to Fred Johnson, because he just believes that nobody should have it. And I don't think he's necessarily wrong about that, but I can see that other perspective. And I think she wants it not so much so she can use it, but more of so that they can study it and be aware of what it's capable of, because it's already out there. It's already out there on Venus, which we'll look into a bit more shortly. But I want to touch real quick on, we get some other character moments, learn more about some other moments with Alex. We find he gets a message from his son saying that it's because later, earlier in a couple episodes earlier, his ex-wife was saying, we don't want you anymore, don't contact us. But his son's like, no, she doesn't speak for me. I still love you. I still like what's important and what's going on. And I think that was a really important moment for Alex. It shows that he actually still has something to live for. He actually has a home to return to, which is great. And we also got a character moment for Naomi, which I actually think Naomi and Holden are on the way to reconciling, where they didn't sort of apologize or change their positions, but they both came to like an understanding, and it seems like they're starting to reconnect with each other. And of course, Naomi opened up about the fact that she has a son out there somewhere, that she has no idea where he is, because the father took him away from her because apparently he was this big OPA guy. And I think in this episode she just says, "I refuse to do what he wanted me to, so he took my son away," and that's been informing her character. So I think that was a huge revelation for her, and I think that actually helps Holden to understand her a bit better as well.
Yeah, a lot of strong family stuff here, and yeah, to go real quick over all that, I love the Alex bit. I thought that was very heartbreaking. I loved his moment of pause before he turned on the message, of the "I don't know what I'm about to get into," that kind of stealing. I really felt for him in that moment of like, oh my God, what am I about to go into? But I have to open this up. And then seeing it was from his son and all that support and everything, I think that's exactly what Alex needed right now. Naomi's bit was good. I like her and Holden together. I like if they're reconciling and getting to. I appreciate they didn't go in for the kiss or anything like that. They just sort of dropped their info and kind of revealed themselves, kind of opened each other up, and then just sort of left it from there for it to see where it was going to go at this point. So I love the pacing that they're doing with that bit of a relationship. Obviously, seeing more of what's going on with Naomi there. The one thing that's really is hitting me, and I just want to hit before we move on, is the relationship between Amos and Pax. I think is getting really interesting, and it's getting me to worry because Amos seems very invested on getting May back, and Pax is more looking in the lines of like, I mean, you can see that darkness in him. Like, have I lost my kid? I'm gonna get revenge. It's the next best thing, right? That's what you said. I mean, there's a hardness coming to him, which I totally understand from a parental standpoint. But I'm curious, because of this little connection going on between him and Amos over May, once they get down to Io, how that's going to proceed. I don't know. I'm seeing Amos is taking this real personally. He's opening up more than I think he expected to with this. So I'm really expecting something to come out of this kind of big and shifty for Amos.
You know what's funny? I thought that Amos was just kind of a dumb grunt when I first saw him because the way that his character is played, he's kind of almost like I don't know. Yeah, he's kind of played as a dumb grunt for the most part. So to see his character development, especially in these past few episodes. That Pax has got on there. No, not Pax, Prax. To see his character development. I mean, especially with this season altogether, because there's or was it last season with the reveal of Naomi and Holden being together? That was last season, right?
Last season, yeah.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I've been just.
Watching it, yeah.
So like kind of from that moment on, he's kind of developed into a more well-rounded character in my eyes. So to see the back and forth with him and Prax, and to kind of see the sadness in his eyes when Prax is like literally gung-ho, and it's sitting up there like, yeah, I'm ready for target practice, and forget about just practice. I'm ready to shoot something up if I find out my daughter is dead. It was, he was kind of like, damn, he thought about how he lost his family and how he's kind of been on this wayward journey to become this almost unfeeling killer, and he doesn't want to see someone else who kind of was a very hopeful person when he first met him, kind of go down that road as well. And I'm wondering what he's gonna have to do. Like, what choices is he gonna have to make when they actually get inside of that base? You know, once they get inside the lab and see what's going on there, and you know, once Prax finds out what they've done to his daughter, what is Amos gonna have to do? Is he going to stand by and let Prax go on a rampage? Is he going to try to stop him, or is he going to try to help him? You know, that's going to be very telling. And as far as Holden and Naomi, I think those two are going to kind of be frenemies for a little while. You know, I don't think that Holden is ready to necessarily forgive Naomi. Like, yes, this whole revelation of her having a son that was taken away from her, and that's part of the reason why she's been so shut off. It's like, yes, you can understand some of her actions, but at the same point, it's like, how do I know that you won't go behind my back again and do something like this? You know, if you think it's going to somehow benefit a cause that you believe in. So I, you know, like they make a cute couple, but I don't know that that things go back to the way that they were before. And as far as Alex, you know, great seeing him get a message from his son and that his son still believes in him and wants to join the fight. But unfortunately, his son has absolutely no idea that the fight isn't what he thinks it is. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, like once they all come out of this, what they, what people around them, what their perspective is going to be on this crew once this is all said and done.
Well, I wanted to comment, get back to Holden and Naomi. Interesting line that she had was, I know this sounds crazy, but you actually don't really know me. So I actually think that although they're not ready to kiss yet or get back into the romantic stuff, I think they're understanding each other on a much deeper level than they ever have before. In many ways, the relationship was a very surface level kind of relationship. It was just like, oh, we're in this kind of, you know, this thing together where we're always fighting for our lives and things are happening and we're always fighting against these people and whatever. And so we're just kind of thrown together like this. So, you know, let's just have sex. And it was just kind of a very basic, in many ways, just kind of a surface level relationship. They didn't know. I mean, Naomi had this huge thing where she has this son, and Holden had no idea about it. So, I mean, they're really, I feel like, if anything, their relationship is getting better now. That I think it's, or at least it's on that path to now where they're actually going to have a deeper understanding of each other and a deeper relationship than they've ever had before.
I mean, I understand your point. Where she's finally opened up, but it's one of those things where she, it's like, how does Holden know that she won't put what she believes in over their relationship first? So I mean, I'm not saying that there's no reconciliation for the two of them. I just think it's probably going to be a lot longer than people would expect. But I could totally be wrong. He could be like, hey, you know what? She's been through some really fucked up shit. I'm just going to have to let this go. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that the relationship is a lot more complex now. That's for sure. Cool. All right. So, oh yeah, real quick, I want to talk about Bobby Draper because we get the scene with her and she's getting all the ammo and getting ready to, go for bear for the shoot and with her suit and really asking Alex, so how do you kill one of those things? I want to be able to kill it. Give me some incinerators, blah, blah, blah. And Alex is just like, isn't the plan that if you see one of those, you just run? And she's like, yeah, well, whatever. So I get the feeling that she's sort of banking for revenge, that she's still traumatized and upset over her team getting killed by one of those things. And I think that she actually wants to kill them. I mean, maybe it could be a more pragmatic view is that she's just being cautious. She's being prepared in the eventuality that she has to face down one of those things. But it also gets to like at the end of the episode when the hybrids are being launched. I love like the way this actress played, the look on her face. Like you could tell that all that trauma from that incident on Ganymede is just coming right back to her, and she's freaking terrified of those like thousands of those things being launched. So I thought that was played off very well.
Well, real quick, I would just like to say, Mark, if you would have just, sent me a picture of Bobby and like The Expanse, watch it with her picture, I would be like, oh, okay, listen, man, yeah, you had that fine ass Samoan girl on there, and you kind of held out on me with that one. I would have definitely watched. That would have been like at least number 2 reason to watch it. But look, all jokes aside, I think Bobby wants to prove that she is the badass Marine that people have been thinking that she was. And she's been training for years to kind of be a Martian super soldier. And when it all came down, she lost her team. She got hurt very badly, and she came to the point where she actually had to betray her government. And I think she's looking for some kind of self redemption, and for her, I think the only way that she gets that kind of self redemption is to defeat one of those proto molecule monsters. Problem is, she is too scared to actually defeat a proto molecule monster at this point. So I just think she's trying to face her fears the best way she knows how, and is hoping like, maybe she can redeem herself in her own eyes and then hopefully be redeemed in the eyes of the Martian people.
Yeah, well, I think I agree a lot with what you said, Mark, that she I think there's a lot of revenge motivation there, and I did definitely think, and I agree with you too, Don, that she is absolutely terrified of these things, and I think it's a kind of a combination of the two, like that she's absolutely terrified of what she saw happen to her team, what to the people that she loved and that she worked with, that these terrifying things totally destroyed them. So she's both terrified and she's also really motivated by revenge. And I think that scene that you mentioned, Mark, where who was it? Was it Alex who said, "Oh, I thought the plan was that we were going to run from them." And what she said was, "Yeah, that's the plan." But clearly, she has no intention of doing that. Like, she doesn't care what the plan is. She wants to kill these fucking things. She wants them eradicated. And again, I'm kind of on that side. I'm not actually, coming out of fear the way she is, but I still think that the way to go is to destroy these things. And I understand where Sorella is coming from, but I can also really understand the need to just let's just kill all these fuckers. But she also is terrified because she remember when she saw the film of them, killing that thing, she was like, "Oh my God, you guys were actually able to kill that!" I don't think she realized that there was a way to kill these things. And now that, maybe she has a little more hope that, we got to kill these things. There's got to be a way to do it.
I always thought it just sort of a blend of yeah. I mean, I think she wants payback to a certain extent. I think as a soldier, she's always gearing for a fight. It's always about taking out the enemy. But I think that there's a cautionary aspect to her too. I think that's where she's with Alex is, yeah, that's the plan. But as a soldier, I know that a plan only lasts until we get to the battlefield, and then it all falls apart. So I think for her, it is, if this is what we're going into, we have to be ready for anything. So I do agree that she does have a fear for it. And I do think that she's itching for battle, but I think it's also just that practical standpoint of last time I went against these things, everything had fallen apart. And what happened was what nobody expected. So sure, we're going to run, we're going to nuke it from orbit. But just in case that doesn't work out, I want to be armed to the teeth to try and take these things out if that's what it comes to.
Absolutely. And in the chat, All Your Money says, Bobby's not going to let a bunch of ice haulers out badass her. It's hybrid season. Yeah, and I did get that impression when they were charging towards the compound. Like, Amos is pretty intimidating and whatever, and Holden's all good. But Draper dressed in her like Martian armor, I'm like, she's the one to be terrified of. She's gonna really fuck things up. But anyway, let's go ahead and end this out, and we'll close with the final storyline. Let's get to the last storyline, which is good old Jules Pierre Mal. The little tiny little shred of piece of sympathy I had for him gone in this episode, where he, he wants to talk to the protomolecule to find out what it's doing. And that is, as I said, that's a noble cause. In fact, I think his intentions are pretty much the same as Avasarala, that he wants to save humanity. But the way he's going about it speaks volumes to how despicable this guy is, because when they found out that they couldn't talk to Katoa anymore, that he's too far gone, and Strickland's like, oh, the next candidate who's most receptive, and I knew, of course, plot-wise, I knew he was going to say this, is May, and the way that he's just like, okay, yeah, go ahead and do it. I was like, you fucker, you asshole. So he, bonded with this girl who we know, reminds him of his daughter, and he doesn't give a shit. He's like, nah, turn her into this horrible monster and give her a fate worth death. So fuck that guy.
Now, it's been a couple of years. I've only watched the first season once, but didn't he kind of pretty much do the same thing with his own daughter? I mean, he warned her. He tried to get her to leave the belt because he knew the shit was going down with the protomolecule, but he didn't tell her specifically. But by the time he found out about his daughter, she was already dead. So he couldn't have saved her beforehand. But once she was dead, he didn't care. He's like, yeah, decimate her body and spread the protomolecule. Who cares? So he did show remorse over his daughter's death, but he didn't he didn't have it to save her, I should say, unless he actually told her what was going on, which of course he wouldn't do. Yeah, and I'm never, ever again on this show going to buy it when any bad guy looks like he's turning the corner, because they almost had me fooled with Aaron, right? I mean, I was kind of like, I don't know if I really believe this, but he kind of seems like he might be, feeling some genuine remorse. But then he turned out to be more evil than he ever had been before. And now Jules Pierre Mal, I actually lost all shred of respect I had from him last week when he sat there and looked at this kid piecing together. I know I talked about this last week, piecing together this dead body, putting it together like a puzzle, these gross body parts all over the place. And he goes, "Oh, look at that! He's talking to the protomolecule," as if there isn't this gross, what kind of inhuman person could you possibly be to just overlook that entirely? So now I just not surprised by anything he does. I have no respect for him whatsoever. So of course I'm not surprised when he was just like, "Oh, May, yeah, fuck that bitch. Let's do whatever we need to to get to the so we can communicate with the protomolecule. Little girls, yes, let's torment them so we can like. This is not surprising me anymore. Like I mean, and I was fooled for a split second there, but I will never be fooled again by any bad guy on this show that seems to be turning the corner, because they just don't. They just end up being more evil than ever.
Yeah, that's pretty much how the show works itself out. If you are evil, you stay evil. If you're good, you probably are going to get killed. But yeah, there was just, I mean, part of me was like, because yeah, you're expecting it from a plot standpoint that, of course, Katoa's not going to work out. So who's next? It's going to be May, just as the dad goes in. So we have to worry. Are they going to get there in time? Is she going to be injected? Then will dad have to take her out, or will they take her with her and she'll slowly turn over time? I get that from a plot point. It's a little annoying because it does feel convenient, but overall, yeah, this is basically just telling us what a POS that Mao is, and that he deserves to die just like everyone else. Also, if we're really looking at it from a timing standpoint, then what did he get? Like a couple minutes with Katoa there in that few in the chamber there. Maybe if we stretch that out, that might be 5 minutes to 30 minutes, perhaps, that he might be able to get some sort of communication. So you're sacrificing a whole life for what could amount to a handful of minutes of kind of unclear responses from Katoa there as he was drifting out. So I don't know. To me, that just makes it even worse. It's not like this is a long-term solution. You're getting a few minutes of conversation. You better have the right questions, or it's like, well, let's get the next kid on the table and inject them up. And yeah, that's how we see what Mal's is. If his intentions are to try and save humanity, fine. But it's not just what you intend to do. It's the road you take to get there that defines whether you are good or bad.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also want to talk a bit about the very ominous, and I thought this was very well, like, creepy, like, horror scene with, Katoa freaking out, and he asked about it. He's like, work will finish soon, starts freaking out. Now, that was very ominous, because in season 2, Julie, when she was turned into a protomolecule thingy, she was also talking about the work. She's like, the work must continue. And Miller was like, oh, we'll go to Venus and the work can continue on Venus. And it seems like it has. And so he's saying the work will be finished soon. So that's a very sort of ominous sort of thing hanging over all the stuff that's going on with the mutiny and the war and everything. There's this protomolecule thing that's having some work that's going to be done soon. So I think that was definitely an extra element of sort of foreboding going forward.
Yeah, we forget that the protomolecule has an agenda too. I mean, I think that's made clear, that this work, the protomolecule is up to something too. Like Earth, Mars, and the Belt are all thinking, well, we're going to get this protomolecule, we're going to control it, and we're going to use it for our own purposes. But I don't know that you can use it for your own purposes when, I mean, it's doing its own thing. Like we don't know what it is yet, but it has its own objective, this work, whatever that is. So this makes it more clear than ever. This is not something that Earth, Mars, or the Belt or anybody's really going to be able to control. Like it's up to something that's on its own.
Well, real quick, I want to just touch back on Jules Pierre Mao and just say, like, what can be said about him that has not been said about Mark Zuckerberg, James Pierpont Morgan, Saddam Hussein. Listen, this guy is really just the absolute worst. He talks about all of these altruistic goals and then decides, okay, but look, if some people need to die in order for me to reach these goals that I think have a higher purpose, so be it. And it doesn't matter who they are, family or not, child or soldier, who cares? as long as I am able to profit from it, that is the most important thing. And if keeping humanity around or making sure that it doesn't get wiped out so that I can profit, all the better. And the proto molecule, he decides, okay, hey, we need to keep this thing going so we can find out what the work is. The work that has driven a young man crazy and is transforming him into some sort of hybrid beast, and he is willing to sacrifice someone else in order to find out what the agenda of the proto molecule is, when the agenda for all humanity should be to wipe this thing out. Look, it's not like they don't know that this thing has been around for billions of years, and it just now, after being dormant for all this time, has come in contact with humanity. They don't know where it came from. And I doubt after all this time that whoever it was that sent the proto molecule is coming to wipe out humanity. Because if they want to do that, I don't think they take billions of years to decide, okay, maybe now is the time to show up and get rid of these primates. Like, come on, man. He's doing it for the money and the fame and his legacy, I suppose. And yeah, Jules Pierre Mao needs to die. I wish there was a faceless assassin somewhere around, just kind of lurking in the shadows, who come and take him out real quick, and and burn down all of IO, so this way we don't have this problem anymore. But that's just me.
Cool. Absolutely. Darren, any thoughts about the work and what that could mean and what it says for the show?
No. And to me, that's what's awesome about it, because it is such a loose term. It's the work. You're like, what work? Are you building an entertainment center? Are you building a bomb? Is this a trans-dimensional gateway to bring in your dark overlords? I mean, it's so loose in its definition. But you're right, that scene where he just Katoa's final like transformation point there, where he is just obsessive and banging and cracking and destroying everything. It was just it was very disturbing. I was expecting them to just nuke that room. I mean, it was just because again, it's that unknown. It's that obsessive unknown. We've already seen the darkness that goes on. We've already seen the power of what the proto molecule to do. So if it has an agenda, something that it's building towards, that's terrifying. And the fact that it's still kept so nebulous and undefined at the moment, I think it's even better, because it's that darkness in the back of your head, where especially with the Rossi crew, you're looking so much to rescue May, stop this, destroy the thing. But no matter what they do here, the work is still continuing on Venus and wherever else the proto molecule is manifesting right now. So whatever even their greatest success could be at the moment is just a small step before whatever this giant thing is going to be coming. So yeah, it's terrifying and it's unknown, and I really like how that is still building as this whole alternate threat in the background.
Yeah, and I'm just want to say, I don't know what this work is, but just somehow something tells me that it's probably not an entertainment center. I don't know if it was.
The work is actually trying to understand the IKEA instructions. That's the whole purpose for the proto molecule.
That'd be cool if like a giant entertainment center flew up from Venus and like, here you go, entertainment center.
Like, how do they do it with no screws? I don't understand.
Oh, great. Cool. So I think we'll go ahead and end this discussion here. I think we pretty much covered what we need to cover about this episode. Just some final thoughts going forward into the next episode, which, as I said, is going to be part 2 of 2 apparently, and it's gonna hopefully have 2, maybe 3. We'll see. But anyway, it looks very yeah, like the way this episode ended, I was like, motherfucker, I want to see where it's going. So any sort of thoughts on going forward? And plus, another thing to keep in mind is that we didn't get any like Earth in this episode, any Aaron Wright or Anna. So I'm pretty sure they were probably going to pop up in the next episode, because we have to get some follow-up that Anna now has that message and what she does with it.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that, because we do get the, Ever Sorella sent the message to 2 different people, and we did get the part of it with the Martians, what they did with the message, but we did not see what Anna does with the message. And we were making the Southern Ned Stark comparison this week, but last week we were making a possible Anna to Ned Stark comparison if she were to go directly to Aaron Wright and say, hey, I have this thing. That would be bad. That would be Ned Stark going to Cersei and telling her that he has something on her, and if she tried to blackmail him, that would be the wrong thing to do. So she needs to go behind his back. So I was just very curious to see. I mean, Anna's another one who's not. I don't know that she necessarily knows how to play the game either. So I could see her being very not smart about it the way that Southern was. So I am like kind of on pins and needles, waiting to see how that part of it turns out. Like, I don't know if we're going to get that next week, along with all of the conclusion to the what's going on in IO or not, because it seems like we really should focus a lot on that. And I would be okay if we don't get the Anna stuff for another couple episodes, if it means we're spending more time on IO. But I also am really curious to see what does happen. What does she do with that information that she has, and what's going to happen with Aaron Wright?
I would think and I would hope that she's smarter than Souther, but we'll see.
Who knows how this is all going to play out? I mean, listen, there's going to be a lot of blowback just off the fact that you have these 2 fleets engaging in a war that shouldn't have been fought. Someone has to expose Aaron Wright to the public. It can't just be a thing where the only people who know about it are these fleet admirals, a band of rebels, and someone who's trying to advise the Prime Minister, Earth President,
Secretary General.
Okay, yes, something like that. Yeah, I mean, so someone has to expose this to the public, and I think that Anna could be the person to wind up doing that. She is pissed off at this whole situation, and the fact that she feels used and betrayed, and for her to get this information now that the person that she really put her trust in has definitely started a war for his own ends, and kind of used her to help further that agenda. I think she's going to be the one that winds up exposing this whole thing to as many people as possible outside of the key players that we've seen thus far.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good possibility. We still have to see what goes on with Anna over on her side of thing, and she's got to do something. I mean, it's interesting. All Your Money in the chat had brought up, Mark, I saw your comment back on here, that the recording also implicates the Martian government in some of this, or elements of the Martian government. So even if our Martian captain does send this out and move this up the chain of command, does she know who to avoid, who might be working with? I mean, I think there was a name that might have been mentioned in there, but I can't recall for sure. So, I mean, there's still so much interesting and intrigue going on, but I like the idea, like even what the Martian captain said, is perhaps some of us dealing with, we can have the luck where it's the grunts fighting on the battlefield that can help make these choices and help avoid this war. I like that idea of the people that are fighting looking around and saying, hey, this is stupid, this is wrong, this is illegitimate, we're not going to keep doing it. So the idea of having some kind of unexpected move on that front, I think would be really cool to see too. Mostly I just can't wait for them to get in the door.
Yeah.
IO and get this taken care of. I love that run up, like you said, everyone running and they're like, okay, got through the door and cut to next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just really want to see how this all plays out. I think Prax and Amos definitely have to have a face-to-face with Mao, and then I'll be happy with whatever turns out after that.
So real quick, I want to jump back around to what we started this video with, the possibility of this ending up on Netflix or Hulu or something like that, that would change the way that we watch The Expanse, because if it was on Netflix, we wouldn't be like, no, we have to wait till next week. We're like, okay, I'm watching the next episode right now. So, I mean, if this is how The Expanse would be, I mean, I would probably knock this thing off in 2 or 3 days. Like, I would stay up all night and get 2 hours of sleep before I go to work because I wouldn't be able to stop watching it. It would definitely change the way we watch The Expanse if indeed it did end up on one of those streaming services, which I would be okay with personally. But
I kind of like this week to week to be able to do videos like this and talk about it and digest each episode, kind of like I do with Game of Thrones. But that being said, if it was on Netflix, yeah, I would definitely binge the whole thing, and I'd rather it be on Netflix than not be anywhere. So I'd be completely okay with that. And of course, I wouldn't be able to help myself. Like, I would also stay up all night and get 2 hours of sleep. But yeah, definitely cool, great. Well, let's go ahead and just discussion here. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thanks for everyone in the chat. Belinda, all your money, Cardinal Doomsday, a few others. Thanks so much for joining in discussion, and anyone watching this archives, thank you so much. Anyway, quick shout outs where people can find you, what you're up to. Don, this is your first time. We'll start with you.
Yeah, my name is Don Willi. You can find me on my channel, A Don of Ice and Fire. And also, tomorrow you can find me and my group, The Hypes Watch. We will be discussing Avengers Infinity War in great detail at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is, what is tomorrow? May 12th. May 12th. Saturday, May 12th, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come and check us out discussing Infinity War, but only if you've seen it, because other than that, Thanos demands your silence.
It's a hard movie to talk about without getting into spoilers. Like, I didn't even bother doing a spoiler-free review because it's like there's nothing in this. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who's up next.
No,
Darren.
I'll go. Darren Jakes over at D's Reviews. As usual, I do reviews of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which has its penultimate episode tonight. Next week is the finale, hopefully just the season and not the series, though we still haven't heard any news on that. Legion also, which is astounding. If you guys aren't watching it, I would highly recommend it. Real brain twister. Westworld as well, and then we'll be jumping into Preacher this summer. So, just lots of little fun stuff. I like to talk shows and goof off, so come join.
And I'm Akton Tamko. I think a lot of you who watch Mark's channel probably also may know me, since we're brothers. We do a lot of stuff together. But right now, my channel is making a little bit of a comeback. I was kind of on a bit of hiatus, just doing a couple things here and there. But I have come out with a Game of Thrones Season 8 predictions. Also have did a review on Lost in Space, and I am now doing full-on weekly reviews of Westworld. I'm getting into Westworld this season, so please check out my reviews on Westworld. I plan to continue to do just full analysis and theories and all that kind of stuff. So please check it out.
Cool. And if you're finding me for the first time, my name's Mark. My channel's Enchantment of Eternity. I do the Expanse every week, a review on the Expanse, and plus these great live discussions as well, which I'm going to try to do every week until the show finishes, till the season finishes. I should correct myself, till the season finishes. The show's not finishing. Keep positive here. But anyway, I also cover other shows like Star Trek. At the moment, I'm still doing my series of covering every single Star Trek film. This week, we're finally getting into those, next generation films, a bunch of films, and so I'll be covering Generations. Know how you feel about them. I'll be covering Generations this week, which I actually think isn't quite as bad as people make it out to be. I think it's an okay movie.
I actually think it's the best of the Next Generation films, personally. But that's how highly I think of the Next Generation films. I think that's me. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Cool. Yeah, so I cover lots of other Star Trek and Babylon 5. I just last week posted my review of season 3 of Babylon 5. So if you're a Babylon 5 fan, definitely check that out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for contributing, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.